Okay, and we're online. Welcome. This right here is the presence of reality itself. This is not some small reflection of some reality somewhere else. This is it. Your being is the being of reality. Your being is divine presence. Your being is the being of the Absolute. We have all these fantastic notions in spirituality, divinity and transcendence and the Absolute and all this. What they all refer to is this actuality right here, this actual presence of your experience. Your experience is present, right? It is here. What is that? How is it present? It's inconceivable. It's miraculous. Of course, we take it for granted because it's always here, right? Present. Sure, my spirit is present. But what is it? How does it work? How can there be this presence? Where does it come from? What's doing it? You can't make it go away. You can't stop it. You can't turn it off. We think of it as, it's just present. Of course, I'm here. The present moment is here. It's just completely obvious. It's normal. And we may have a tendency to minimize it, to just assume it's just part of the window dressing, part of the background. How can this be? How can this be present? How can experience be present? How can consciousness be present? It's inconceivable. There's no way you can wrap your head around it. There's no way you can say what it works or think what it is. Of course, we're used to thinking that. We're used to thinking, I'm a human being and I live in a body and I'm kind of a byproduct of biochemistry in the brain and I live in a vast world that's other than me. But there's no way you can actually get a handle on what this is. All of these stories we tell ourselves are just vast oversimplifications of an inconceivable actuality. That it's actual is undeniable. What it is, how it works, is mind-blowing. You look at it, you try to sort it out, you try and make sense of it, you try and fit it into normal descriptions, normal philosophies, materialism, what have you. They're myths, they're absurd simplifications that do not apply to this inconceivability. What is it that is here? What is it that is present? It's clearly present. It's obviously something here, something going on, something actual, some actuality. What is it? It's what you call your experience, isn't it? Your experience is here, right? And we have lots of labels for our experience. Our experience. We have experience of your body, experience of other people's bodies outside of you, seemingly, experience of the room you're in, experience of the world, experience of all these things, experience of your sense fields, experience of your field of vision, experience of your field of hearing, experience of your field of thought, experience of various subtle energies, what have you, that we don't have classifications for, but of course these are part of our experience. What is this experience? What is this experience? And all of these names we have for things that we suppose are actualities are just names of experience. Think of a dream. In a dream, say you're walking down the street and on the sidewalk and someone comes up to you and you talk to them, the car drives by, whatever, right? Just a dream. There's no sidewalk there. There's no car there. There's no other person you're talking to. Your body isn't even there. The only thing that's there is a dream. Right? And we have the same situation here. What's here is the field of your experience. Right? I mean, is this not true? Is this not obvious? And anything you think you know about is a description of aspects of that. Right? So, under our feet is the floor, right? How do you know there's a floor there? Because you experience. You think, I'm experiencing the floor, but you don't know you're experiencing the floor. You're just experiencing, and you're calling it a floor. In a dream, you might experience standing on a floor, and you know perfectly well when you wake up there was no floor there. There seemed to be a floor, but all there was experience. Experience is so close. We are inhabiting this bubble of experience, right? Your experience is like a bubble, and the entire world appears in it. Everyone you see in this room is appearing in your experience. You can't tell if they're actually there or not. Your body is appearing in your experience. You feel it, you hear it, you see it, but all of that is just experience. What is this? What is this experience? Oh, it's a phenomenon of consciousness. Okay, great. What's consciousness? Again, the only reason we can claim there's something like consciousness, claim there's something like a world, claim there's something like bodies, claim there's something like other people, is because this presence that we call experience is here. And it looks as if it was kind of like that. We can explain it in those terms and it kind of holds up until we go to sleep and it all disappears, but then we just pretend, I just went to sleep. The waking condition is the real condition. Sleep, when everything disappears, isn't real. Right? Maybe sleep is real condition when everything disappears, and when you wake up, it's like a dream where everything appears. Who knows? Ramana Maharshi said, ask who am I, find out who you are. Nisargadatta said, you're not what you take yourself to be. So, what are you? There's this present field of experience. What if you're that? What if you're this bubble of experience? What's that like? Maybe the world seems to exist because you do, because your bubble of experience is present, so the world can seem to appear. Just like in a dream, right? Where was the world before you were born? Where's the world when you go to sleep? Where's the world after you die? But this is. This is. It's a very powerful fact. This is. It's the powerful fact. Can't say what it is, can't say how it is, even though everyone does. It's all bravado. But that this is absolutely undeniable. It's reality, it's truth. This is. And you are that. It's present. It's that is. It's intuitively obvious, of course. I'm this. I'm here. As soon as I start qualifying it and trying to say what it is and trying to spin stories and analyses about it, I'm bullshitting. And I know I'm bullshitting. When you were a little kid, say you were 6 months old, you didn't know what anything was. You knew you didn't know what anything was. And you start learning a lot of vocabulary, start learning a lot of names, oh, that's a car, that's a tree, that's a person, I'm mommy, I'm daddy, this, that. And so we learn all of these names as if we're learning something, when all we're learning is names of something we don't know what it is, right? We don't know what mommy is. I mean, you know the presence of mommy, right? You know the flavor of mommy, but what is that? It's transcendental. You can't pin it down. You can't draw a circle around it. You can't describe it. You can't define it definitively. So all of this whole dictionary full of 10,000 words, it's all bravado. It's all just labels of the unknown. And we forget we have so many labels for things, so we can say, oh, that's a statue, that's a tonka, this is a cushion, this is a floor, this is a chair, you're a person, this is a computer. So all these labels, and we can pretend we know what that is. What's a computer? Oh, it's a circuit. Okay, great. What's a circuit? It's a complex arrangement of elements so electricity can work and do certain things. Okay, great. What's electricity? What's matter? What are elements? I mean, you get to a point where you just have to admit you're bullshitting. Even if you're you have a degree in physics, then you have a really sophisticated mathematical arsenal of language and terminology, and you can start quoting all these Latin terms and all that. But still, you get to a point where you get to, I mean, if you got every Nobel Prize-winning physicist that ever lived in this room and asked them, what is energy? If they were honest, they would say, we don't know. We can tell you a lot about it. We can tell you a lot about what it looks like when you measure it, when you do certain things in certain controlled circumstances with it. But what is it? It's transcendental, but it's here. This is energy. Right now, your field of vision is full of light. It's full of light. This is energy. What is this? No one knows what it is. No physicist can tell you what light is. They can tell you a lot about it, but they can't tell you what it is. And yet here it is. You have it. You are it. It is in you. You have intimate experience of it. You close your eyes and your field of vision is still full of light. You go to sleep, field of vision is still full of light. Start dreaming, field of vision is still full of light. This never-ending presence of this transcendental energy, completely accessible, you're completely engaged with it. It's in you. It's in your experience, right? You can know light by being it, by experiencing it, and you do. You can't say what it is, but it's the nature of it. You can't say what things are. We can't think. This is unthinkable, literally unthinkable, not in some sense of hyperbole, but thoughts cannot comprehensively grasp or define what anything is. Thoughts can label things, you can name things, you can point to things, you can say, yeah, this is light, this is sound, this is consciousness, this is presence, this is gravity. You can sort of wave your hand and have these labels that indicate them, like a URL on the web, it takes you to a website. But what it is, it can't be said. You can't pin it down. No one has ever pinned it down. And yet, you have it. You have light. You have gravity. You have consciousness. All of these actualities are you. You are immediately engaged with them most profoundly. So we can know these things, but we can't know them conceptually. We can't know them definitively. And so if you let go of the arrogance, the human arrogance of defining things, of labeling things, of pretending you know what things are by being able to bullshit really well, and embrace the actuality of your experience, you know what these things are in a way that is totally unsayable, totally unthinkable, and yet it's beable. You are light. You are consciousness. You are sound. This is all self-evident. You are experience. Right? If you're anything, you're this, right? Can you find a you other than the bubble of your experience, the field of your experience? Simply feeling this presence, which you always feel, right? You can't not feel it. You can't turn it off. You can't shut it down. Simply feeling this presence is profoundly powerful. You are feeling the presence of reality, the actual presence of reality. You are feeling the presence of transcendence. It's transcendent in the sense that you can't pin it down. You can't say what it is. It's entirely mysterious, entirely magical. How can now be? How can space be? How can consciousness be? All these things. How can you dream? How can you go to sleep and you, with your little mind, spin out these, I don't know, some people think dreams are vague, but if you ever go lucid in a dream, it can be just as real as this, just as detailed. How does that happen? And you just spin it out in real time, just improvise it, just like bang, you don't sit and plan for hours building up scene by scene what a dream's going to be and putting all the little bits there or something, right? You just improvise it. You're just jamming. Your consciousness is just throws all this shit out. How can that happen? How can this happen? In this nothing in this instance ever happened before. Everything you're seeing right now, you have never seen before, and you will never see again, right? That's always true. Everything you're hearing, likewise, the same thing. The experience is always unique, and it's instantaneous. It's gone. It's not here for any time at all. It's the present. How long does the present moment last? It doesn't last like a little while or an instant, or it doesn't last at all. It's not even here. As soon as it's here, it's already gone. It's already moved on to become another set of circumstances, another presentation. How does that happen? It's trippy, it's weird, it's mind-boggling. And yet it's right here, it's totally obvious. You can look at it anytime you want. Right? It's real, it's actual. So this actual presence is the presence of transcendental reality. And you can look at it, you can study it anytime you want, and you will see what it is. You won't be able to say what it is, you won't be able to pin it down. But it's not something that can be pinned down, so that's cool. How do you pin down infinity? How do you pin down the divine? And just feeling this presence without imposing your concepts of what it is. Just feeling it, just be open, just feel it, Don't know what it is, just feel it. Let go of your worldview for a minute, let go of your sense of anything, just let go of pretending you know what anything is, and just feel this presence. It won't go away. When you don't know what it is, it's still right here, exactly the same. And then you can feel what it really is, and it will show you what it is. And just this feeling, this presence is profoundly powerful. It's easy to think of it as, oh no, I don't feel a presence all the time. It doesn't do anything, It's doing all this. It's taken you from birth to here. Anyway, that's enough diatribe. I invite you to sit and feel this miraculous presence. And if you'd like to chat about anything, tell a joke or anything, yeah.
The fact that some things appear to the mind, some forms appear more that they have charge. The mind wants to grasp on to sustain or repeat certain experiences associated with particular pleasing arisings and field of experience. And I'm just seeing how deep that is, but how in this body mind, how it's automatic and instinctual, very just a lot of juice, a lot of power, and obviously, or somewhat obviously, if I try and find anything, what is it that's being grasped at as some type of ultimately identifiable thing? It's just images. It's just something being held in the mind as a symbol for the actual thing. But all gets very hard to pin down, and but the reification of all that it is interesting. It's very. I guess it's the force of habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it is the force of habit. Yeah, karma. Your identity, literally, is what creates all of these imaginary objects and situations that you orient to, that you find meaningful, that you find important, both positive and negative, in terms of trying to avoid them or trying to seek them out. And they all, as identifications, they all exist in imagination, right? Because the actuality of experience cannot be defined well enough to know what it is. And yet the imagination can effortlessly hold something to be something, and then maintain that identity in the face of its many aspects and its changeability and so on and so forth, and orient to these things as if they had great importance. But it's all in the imagination. It's just like in a dream. In a dream, there's nothing actually there. There's just these patterns and shapes and colors, right? And yet you can have things that you love, things that you hate, things that you're running away from, things that you're really gravitating towards. It's the imagination that creates the importance of these supposed entities that exist. There's no entities in a dream. There's a field of experience, right? There's no objects. You see a tree in a dream, and you see a hill that it's sitting on in the dream. The tree isn't separate from the hill. They're just light, they're color. Right? But no, the tree's a tree, and it's separate from the hill, which is totally created in the imagination. And we do the same thing, of course, all the time. We're very familiar with this, We look around this room and we see people and we see objects, The people are just like the objects. They're just, when you see them, they're just patterns of light. But oh no, people are people, and they're very different than the objects.
Yeah.
So all of this differentiating of types of patterning within experience, and then isolating these patterns in terms of objects or situations, and then assigning importance or urgency to them, is effortlessly done in the imagination, and it's a habit, and it's an addiction, and in spirituality it's what's called ignorance, confusion. And the solution to that is very simple. When you see what this actually is, when you see that it's all a field of transcendental experience, they're apparent objects, it's just like going lucid in a dream. You see that it's a dream. The dream doesn't necessarily go away or disappear, right? You see the things, what you were calling things before, in the dream, but they're not things anymore. There's just a dream. It's like, oh wow, this is a dream, I'm dreaming. What fun. And then you don't give a shit anymore, right? Because you know that the objects and situations aren't objects and aren't situations. They're just patterns of dream. And exactly the same situation is occurring here. This is a field of experience. It's the imagination that creates objects, that identifies objects and situations, and gives them value judgments and so on and so forth, and then you orient towards what you like, what you don't like, and etc.
The dream metaphor, or comparison, in a dream, the events that happen don't seem to have any basis in reality, like a pink elephant or a flying dolphin or whatever it is. It's something the mind can toss out of, for whatever reason, just sort of regurgitated imagery. The actual waking state, things happen that I have to infer are based on karmic causality. Within the field of ordinary waking reality, actions have powers to generate effects. So in that sense, maybe the dynamics of the dream are governed somehow on that principle, but it doesn't seem to have any staying power, where the waking reality, I'm experiencing a particular set of experiences that's ongoing. It's my day-to-day.
But it isn't ongoing. We suppose that it's ongoing. Arguably, the waking experience is somewhat more stable than the dream experience, but in type, it's exactly the same. Anything that appears in a dream appears logically. In a dream, when a pink elephant appears, you aren't surprised. It just fits right into the story, right? In this dream, someone walks in the door you've never seen before, and you're not surprised. It just fits right into the story. So there's coherence. There's arguably more coherence in terms of the range of the dynamism of the way the patterns can change. Let's say experiential patterns can change in the waking state than in the dream state, but that's just a matter of degree, not a matter of quality. And causality and karma and all that exists solely in the imagination. They're imputed. I mean, in a dream you can take a knife and stick someone and they'll die. And in the waking life you can take a knife and stick someone and they'll die. But in the dream the knife didn't kill them. The dream presented the image of a knife and the image of a person and the image of sticking them and the image of them dying. There's no one died, there was no knife, there was no action. And it looks, in this world, I take a knife, I stick you, there's all sorts of repercussions. But when then that night, when I pass out and go to sleep, where's those repercussions? Where are they? When I die, where's those repercussions? All the horrible things you did in your last life, if any.
Well, I mean,
where are they? Where's what you did yesterday? Where's what you did yesterday? It's gone. It's gone forever.
The traditional view would be that what I am now is what I have done in the past, what I will be in the future is what I'm doing now, and so forth. The present being the result of the past and generating the future. So that's something that I don't have direct. I don't have direct knowledge of previous lifetimes. I can barely remember last week, but that powerful link, I just have to assume that's generating the nature of certain circumstances.
No, it exists only in your imagination. It's an interpretation. The way everything happens is entirely transcendental and cannot be pinned down.
Things that were just taking this lifetime, in 54 and a half years of experience, those things actually occurred. Certain things were done, good, or positive, negative, neutral. That's actually, that all took place and has generated certain predispositions and habits.
That's your theory that generated it. How do you know it generated it? How do you know that happened? How do you know that the way you are now is because that happened?
Memory.
You can say that happened, and you can say you're the way you are, and you can say there seems to be some kind of a patterned link, but you can't say that it caused it. Anyway, this is splitting hairs. The important point is to be with experience, see what it is, and you will discover that it's an instantaneous event, and you will discover that it transcends any way that you can get a hold of what it is or what anything is or how anything happens. So even if things seem to be a certain way, and even if things seem to happen in a certain pattern, it is certainly more than that, because the things are more than you're holding them to be, and the way it happens is more than you're holding it to be.
I guess the real question, not to be splitting here, but the real question, the field, what I would call, or to borrow Krishnamurti's term, the field of the known. All these things that are familiar, that are habitual, that I tend to hang out with as my MO or whatever. So the alternative to that, or that which it has never been bound up with that, is always present.
Yes,
not,
exactly.
There's no
and it's always present as that, because even the very things you think you know are more than you know about them. Anything you think you know is more than you know about it. Like, take someone you know well, they're more than you know. Yourself is more than you know. Mm-hmm. Physical objects are more than you know. Everything is more than you can get a handle on.
I can't get a handle on anything.
Yeah, and that's not just philosophy. That means that everything transcends what you think it is. The way things happen transcend what you think it is, and so on. So you can't be sure of anything. You can say things seem to be kind of the way I'm used to seeing them, and they seem to have happened kind of the way that they have. There seems to be this causality, but the operative word there is seems, and you can know factually that everything is more than you think, more than other. You can't, because you can't know any object, any situation, any experiential actuality definitively. You can't pin it down. You can't define it. You can't say, I know exactly what this is. I know everything about this. You know, you can't. It's, you know, it's. I can know a lot about it, but there's always more. There's always more. I could sit with this cup for the rest of my life, and I would never have the same experience of it twice. And it's all of that and more.
The sense of being myself, as I ordinarily think of myself as being a limited, samsaric character, there is no, that cannot be made. The bridge between that and reality doesn't exist. It's just reality. I can't go from that to
yeah. That is a highly attenuated and averaged out and approximated version of reality. Mm-hmm. And it's so heavily approximated as to leave out everything. You know, it's like I've approximated and I've got 1% of everything nailed down. You know, but hey, how about the other 99%? You know, it's just you don't know. And that's right here. That's part of this too. You can't know what anything is. You can't know how anything works definitively. Can't be done. And we think we do, and that's what gets us in trouble. That's what ignorance consists of. When we believe our simplified version of things. I think I know what the things are. I think I know what I am. I think I know what my life is. And I think I know how it works. You know, I built a jail for myself that I'm inhabiting just by that belief. And the simple fact that it is explicitly and obviously beyond that and more than that is the back door. Is the way to get out of jail.
Yeah, it's interesting because I can't try and get out of jail. It's like you said. I think last time I saw you, just have to let the reality shine through and let that.
Well, you can see that there is more than you know. You can see that experientially. I don't mean in the abstract. Mm-hmm. You can see that your experience is more than you can say. You can see that your experience is more than you can pin down, more than you can define. Which is true right here, right now. And that portion of it, let's call it, is outside of your story of it, outside of your narration, outside of your, well, I'm me and I'm this and I'm that and I'm blah 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 blah, right? You can know that. You can know that immediately. You can know that right here, right now. And then you're more than you're used to thinking. You actually are. You can experience this moreness. More and other. Everything is more and other than you think it is. I mean, this is obvious if you're honest. Just, you don't, you know, we're experts at bravado. We're experts at thinking we know what things are. We know what's going on. And we're intelligent, you know, sure, we know a lot, we have a handle on a lot of stuff, a lot of subtleties and so on and so forth, but that's not enough. You don't know, you can't pin it down, you can't get to the bottom of anything. And that's good news, because in that moreness means that the limitations that are implied in your version of things aren't necessarily true.
Is transcendence or this intuition that there's more, is that Is that beyond our imagination? Does that mean that we're not imagining things anymore?
Yeah. Well, it's not just beyond imagination, because imagination is that too. Imagination is more than you can know.
Yeah.
What's imagination? Imagination is inconceivable.
Oh yeah, that is 99% of my life probably, but
this is the important thing, is to notice we inhabit a world. We sort of live in two worlds. You can put it this way. Not literally, but let's say as a model. We live in two worlds. The world we think we live in, the world what we think we are, what we think is going on. Our version of things, our narration. Oh, I'm Peter Brown, and I live in SanRafael, and I'm 62 years old, and blah, just the whole curriculum vitae. Just if I was going to say everything that I know about anything, there's the sort of that world that I could say, well, that's me, and that's my world. I inhabit it. And and then there's the actuality of this.
Yeah,
and this includes so much that is not in my narration, and my narration is mostly bravado and bullshit, because again I'm just sort of spinning, giving names and titles of things without really knowing what anything is.
Yeah, well, that's like living the life as if you were dreaming, right? That's what we do when we're dreaming.
Well, it's exactly like a dream. In a dream, there's two things happening, you could say. There's the dreaming itself, and then there's our interpretation of, oh, I was dreaming, and I was in New York, and I was, then there was a polar bear chasing me. It's like, so there's the story version, which is a vast oversimplification of the dream itself, which is a present field of energies and vibes and God knows what, right? Who knows what the dream is? But the dream is an actuality. The interpretation is basically an oversimplification turned into some degree of narrative, right? So there's these two sort of layers, maybe. And the important thing to notice is that your narrative layer, that we're all very familiar with, is not actual. It's just an oversimplification of the actuality which is beyond it, which is more than it, which is not encapsulated, not defined by the narration.
Sure, and the other thing about a dream is, or the nighttime dream, or the sleep dream, is that there's something me, the dreamer, lying down in another, completely supposedly outside of the dream.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can think
the
that
the dream is actually part of.
If you're lost in the dream, that isn't present. If that is present, If you're sort of lightly asleep and you're sort of in the dream, and at the same time you're lying down, that's present too. Then you're kind of in two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that? What are either of them? Again, all you are really is in your field of experience, and various textual experiential characteristics are being presented. And what's that? How does that work? Again,
Yeah, that's about the closest I can get to this, this idea of transcendence. I think is moments like that.
Yeah, well, I use this word transcendence a lot, and I'm referring to specifically the fact that actuality is beyond anything you can describe.
Right.
That's simple.
But notice that sort of.
And since it's beyond anything you can describe, it's beyond anything you can think, because thoughts are essentially conceptual. Thoughts are essentially verbal.
But there's sort of a moment when you have to, when I have to sort of figure out a way to straddle this idea of being in two different places, and then just get to one, just say, where am I? And then I don't know, so.
Well,
just to get rid of
even if you seem to be in two different places, you're really in your experience, which is one place.
Right.
You're not in any place.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the experience a place?
No.
You can say it's a field. It's the field of experience. If there is any place that's the place. I mean, where are you? You're in your field of experience. Where is that? Well, when you're dreaming, it's there. When you're awake, same place. When you're in both,
Yeah.
The both, if they're present, are present in this, right? In this. This that is here. This is the place. This is the place. This is where dreams happen. This is where sleep happens. This is where death happens. This is where life happens. Right. And all places appear within this actual place, and they are just interpretations of this. Because this can look like anything that it can look like. Yeah.
The feeling which you describe, I might describe as like deep presence. That would be. It feels like, oh, that would be wonderful to be in that place all the time. And somehow I have this belief that, well, maybe it's a lack of faith that if I was in that place, not caught in my mind, but feeling that fluidity, the deepness, the presence, that natural creative force that might propel me through my life wouldn't necessarily happen without some input from my mind.
Well, again, it's not necessarily an either or. It's not like there's the mind or there's presence.
Right.
And in fact, of course, you are present. You're always present. Presence doesn't go away. And we may think we're noticing it or not noticing it, but when you're not noticing presence, you're doing so in presence. Where are you doing it? Here, in this, right? In your experience, which is present. If it wasn't present, it would be nothing, right? And it's always something. It's always you, right? And mind happens in presence. Thought happens in presence. Thoughtlessness, if there's ever such a thing, which I kind of doubt, happens in presence. Deep noticing of this amazing wow happens in presence. Getting distracted and caught up in our craziness happens in presence. So we're never out of presence, and mind can happen in presence manifestly. Creativity can happen in presence. And creativity is, we oversimplify whether I'm doing it or not. I have to be creative. It's like there is unending creativity, and it's all me. The fact that this moment appears is absolutely creative, right? This is created, bang, poof, never happened before. I couldn't have dreamed this up. It's like, my God, what a bizarre thing. I mean, all these people in this room with this crazy stuff around and this bizarre conversations and stuff. I mean, that's creativity for you. And, it doesn't need to be that you're doing it or you're not doing it. Creativity happens. The sun constantly shines. That's creativity. Time constantly passes. That's creativity. Experience constantly morphs. Right? That's creativity. The creativity is the creativity of reality itself. But since you are reality itself, that's your creativity. You're not a small piece of reality. You're not a small piece of this. This is you.
Right. So the disbelief when I was speaking of the creative burbling, I was thinking of all forms that you go through. Like, I don't believe that. Okay, I might wake up in the morning and be in a kind of a Summerhill reality, and things would just happen nicely, and that has happened. But some part of me doesn't trust that I would creatively and fluidly want to do my taxes. No.
Well, you might not, and then you might creatively and fluidly not do your taxes, and then you creatively and fluidly find yourself in court. And then you creatively and fluidly call a lawyer. I mean, this circumstance endlessly rolls into circumstance, and it's all creative and it's all fluid. It's unstoppable. You don't have to pay your taxes. You don't have to eat food. You don't have to, not take heroin. But if you do those things, then the creativity rolls in certain ways which may motivate certain other modes of creativity, which, so on and so forth. I mean, we all know this. It's just part of acquiring skillfulness, of learning. You know, we learn that if we function in certain ways, we might regret it. Or not, maybe not. Maybe we'll pull it off, you know, you never know. Maybe you could not pay your taxes. I mean, some people do, right? It's just a matter of pulling it off. So you don't know, you never know what's going to happen. But it's all creative. Everything's creative. I mean, you know, being dysfunctional is creative. Being functional is creative. Because it all is being created. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
It's not there unless it's being created. Right? We qualify creativity because we're used to playing a game of wanting to be better. You know, we want to win, we want to be smoother, we want to be happier, we want to be more effective, we want to, you know, we want to win, we want to, and sometimes that happens, and sometimes it happens less so, you know, and that's part of the, right, the way things seem to go. But it's all intrinsically this same actuality, right? Success is this, it's just like failure is this. Doing things right is this, just like doing things a little less right is this, right? And our own personal motivations and struggles and grapplings with our own attempts to be what we'd like to be and so on and so forth is this too, and it all just comes with, it all just spontaneously appears, right?
Experiencing it is like mystical magic.
Yeah.
When you, I don't want to say get it, because
Yeah.
that's ludicrous also.
Yeah.
But
But
the experience goes beyond anything.
Yeah.
Anything I could possibly say. I guess it makes me smile actually, because I'm going, this is one heck of a trip. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And this is it right here, right now.
This is it.
You know, you
And
can
it's
experience it any time you want.
know.
In fact, you can't not experience it. You can notice it more than other times. You maybe be noticing it less, but even when you're not noticing it, it's this. And you're not noticing, how does that happen? I mean, that's completely amazing. It's completely inconceivable. How can not noticing happen? I mean, here is this amazing event. How can, unstoppably, constantly going on, how can it possibly not notice itself? And yet, you know, this seems to happen. It's mind-blowing. But noticing is possible, because this is as it is, right here, right now, always. It is possible to notice this. And it happens from time to time to everyone. It happens. People notice it, whether you credit it or not. You know, you may be living some horrible life where you're just caught up in whatever. But even then, you'll notice from time to time. You know, you'll just see something amazing. You'll see a sunset or something. God knows what, right? You'll think some thought. Who knows? Or have a memory. Whoa, And what is that? It's noticing. And this is profoundly powerful, and in the long run it's transformative. Everybody, I mean, this is the most powerful yoga. This simply, you don't need to sit in meditation 4 hours a day or shave your head or you had a Hindu name or something. Simply noticing this actuality and noticing how amazing it is the highest yoga. Just from time to time. Lily? Could you give me some water? Thanks a lot.
Did you say water?
Water, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
And just feeling this presence, this obvious presence of the moment, of your being, is the doorway to this amazing transcendence. It's actual. It's actual transcendence. It's not imaginary transcendence or something you need to aspire to or imagine or sort of some pie in the sky you need to, worship. It's just the fact that this is amazing. This is amazing. This is amazing. One way to look at it is to just remember that you're looking at experience. You're not looking at things, you're looking at experience. When you see this room, you're actually seeing experience. And the experience, there's all these colors and shapes and all that, but all colors exist only in experience. Shapes exist only in experience. You're thinking about things, thoughts exist only in experience. So experience itself has all these amazing textures and qualities of different bandwidths of energy, right? Light and sound and thought and subtle vibes and whatever, right? And yet, all you're ever experiencing is experience itself, which looks like this. It looks like this. It presents itself as all this, just like in a dream. Just like in a dream. You could be dreaming about this room and the room wouldn't be there. All that was there is your experience, right? The dreaming. The room may or may not be here, but you can't know because all you'll ever know is your experience, right? I mean, this is just empirical. So you're seeing your experience, you're hearing your experience, you're feeling your experience, and that gives just feel what that feels like. Gives a different perspective on where you are, on what you are. What's your experience sitting on? Your butt's sitting on the chair and chair's sitting on the floor, but that's just an experience. What's the experience sitting on? It's just a bubble floating in infinity or something, right? And who knows?
Peter, is that what is meant by your true self? I don't hear you use
Yes.
the term very much, but it's
Sure.
like experience outside of narration.
Sure,
Just the,
of course. This actuality. I mean, even calling it experience doesn't pin it down. Experience is a word that refers to what? It refers to this field of actuality, right? And this field of actuality is certainly you. Can you find a you other than this field of actuality?
So there's nothing other than that.
Nothing. There is nothing other than that. If there was some other than that, you would only know it through this field of actuality.
Well, maybe my knowing could get a little better.
Yeah, but if your knowing got better, anything you know is going to be an actuality. And any actuality you're knowing is, by definition, experience. But look at the sum total of the actuality of your knowing. It is this field, right? This field. I mean, I'm calling it a field, call it a bubble. Doesn't matter what you call it. It is this itself. Whatever, the name isn't important. The reality is right here. This, and everything whatsoever, and anything that even is not a thing. If it's actual, it appears in this. Otherwise, it's just a fantasy. And if it's a fantasy appearing in this.
Does the size change?
What?
Does the size change?
Well, you can't. It has no size.
Well, it seems to have a circumference. I mean, there's no real edge to it, but it pretty much feels a certain way, and then sometimes it.
How big is the field of your experience? An inch, a mile, 30,000 light years.
It's
Zero.
It's in between.
In between everything. Well, you can't say because there's no outside measuring stick. It's like asking how big's the universe. It's not like you can get a measuring stick and hold it up to the universe and say, oh, it's this is, Since it's everything, how big is everything? Well, it's as big. It's as big as it is, but it's a meaningless question. Asking how big. Maybe this is all taking place within a point. Could be. How could that happen? Who knows? But how could it happen anyway? How could it happen if it's not taking place within a point? Your experience is certainly bigger than all space, all physical space, right? When you see the Andromeda Galaxy, it's in your experience. If you saw something beyond that, it's in your experience. So as far as you can experience, in terms of physical space, you're actually just experiencing inside of your own experience, right? When you see the sun, you're seeing where's the sun? It's here in your experience, right? How big is it? How big is the sun? About that big. How big is the sun?
Well, sometimes there's a feeling of vastness that isn't like a daily brain. It's not my everyday
Sure.
space.
Well, there's endless modes this can seem to present itself in dominantly, right? I mean, the sort of the way this seems to be is continually varies and continually fluctuates, right? Very inconstant in every regard, right? Like just moods, like how do you feel today? Oh, I feel pretty good today, Where does that come from? I feel shitty today, or wow, this is fast, or God, I feel just so held in and cramped, These are just modes that can appear experientially, So what can appear experientially? Anything that appears experientially can appear experientially, and there's no basis for an a priori assumption that anything can't.
Well, I mean, just noticing it and being more aware of the actual physicality of your own space.
Yeah, but even then, that has many different modes. It's inconstant. You notice something different every time. Nothing repeats itself. Nothing actually seems to be exactly the same different times. I mean, sometimes you see something you see every day. You'll see it once and it seems to be a certain way. It's seen another time, it seems to be another way. I go into my bedroom and I think, God, this room's tiny. Sometimes I'm in there and I think, God, what a nice big room. It's just, what's up with that? Because it can seem to be that way. everything's like that. Or people, you're with people, they think, God, what, this person is so sweet. With them another time, God, this person really annoys me. I mean, it's just everything. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is stable. Right? Things morph and grow, and the flavors are constantly changing, and there's no real touchstone. There's no real, locked in or stability in experience. It looks like a dream, in the same way. There's just this endless fluidity. But it never departs from itself, right? It's always this. It can seem to be all these different ways, but that's this is that, this is this that does that works that way. And you can't say what that is or how it is, but it is clearly that's the case. But this is actual. I mean, it's present. It's right here. And that's the powerful fact. That's the really powerful fact. So you can check in with this anytime, because it never goes away. Anytime you want, just check in with this. And what's it like now? What's it throwing at me now? What's it looking like now?
But despite appearances, that presence is always senior to the conditioning, to the content.
Yes. It is that within which content appears. Without presence, there can be no content. Its presence is the root being. This presence, this being right here, that is the being of your experience, is the being of reality. It's the being of the universe. It's the being of actuality. It's not like this is some little sliver of being that's somehow derived from some great being out there somewhere. This is it.
It's absolutely unbelievable how gnarly it can become, and how claustrophobic and how
Through belief and interpretation, through holding it. Things are this way. Things really suck, and then you believe they really suck, and all of a sudden you feel really stuck in the suckness. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because unbeknownst to you, not deliberately of course, in your imagination you create these conditions that you then hold to be objectively true, and once you hold them to be objectively true, you believe they are true, and you believe you're stuck in them. But it's like a snake eating its tail. It's bootstrapped out of nothing, basically. And the actuality which proves that this is actually always more than that, more than you can hold it to be, is always obviously on display. It's always self-evident.
I've continued to embrace the long temple books that you recommended, and it goes against so much of what we hear more mainstream Buddhist approaches. Long temple will say this cannot be approached through meditation, it cannot be approached through practice, through virtue, through the paramitas. If you're doing that, you're missing the point. You're radical. So that's basically what your yoga radiant presence. That's what you're obviously.
Yes, from the point of view of Dzogchen, all the lesser vehicles of Buddhism are erroneous. And basically what I present is essentially consonant with Dzogchen.
Is it erroneous or irrelevant?
Irrelevant. It's erroneous if you hold it to be
True.
wholly true. because all the lesser vehicles of Buddhism are based on causality. You behave in a certain way to achieve certain results. And Dzogchen is based on this is what it is as it is, it cannot be made to be what it is, it cannot be made to be not what it is by doing or not by not doing. And simply seeing that that is the case, and seeing that there is nothing else that is the case than this. So you are this, the world is this, reality is this, it is as it is, always has been, always will be. Ain't going anywhere. It's not going to be improved if you're good, it's not going to be tainted if you're bad.
The ordinary mechanism of the mind, of the usual way of thinking and relating, is that if I do this, that will result. If I do A, that will have the result of B. It's always leading to
Right.
the next imagined.
Right. And the problem with that is it's always an approximation. And even if it's approximately true is a synonym for entirely false. Because the reality will be different than you anticipate. You know, I can say in a half hour I'm going to get in the car and drive home, but the reality of what that experience looks like will be different than I can imagine now. Will be. There's no way I can imagine exactly what it's going to look like. Because experience is surprising, experience is unpredictable, intrinsically.
But again, it's functioning from the known.
Yeah, and experience is always an unknown. It's always a surprise. You never know exactly what you're going to experience in a moment. Even just in just like you don't know what you're going to experience 1 second from now. You don't know exactly what your eyes are going to light on. You don't know exactly what thought's going to pop into your head. You don't know exactly how you're going to feel. You don't know exactly what nuance of mood is going to sweep across you. Right? So there's just this constantly surprising, presentation that the present moment always brings. It's always, wow, I couldn't have predicted this. I did not know that this moment was going to look exactly like this. I just didn't. I couldn't. I could say, in a moment I'm going to be sitting in this room and I'm going to be seeing the stuff over there. I mean, that's true, but it's so general that it's meaningless. The specifics of what I see, the actual experience is different than anything I can possibly hold in my imagination.
I was looking forward a lot to having chai when I got here. I kept thinking of it. And when I was drinking the chai, I kept looking forward to eating tacos, and I wasn't expecting that at all. When I was looking forward to drinking chai, I wasn't thinking that's the time I'm going to be looking forward to tacos.
See? Here's my point. I mean, just that right there is a incredibly powerful meditation. Just notice how the present moment's always surprising, and it's really obviously the case. Just notice how I did not know, I could not possibly have known exactly what I would be experiencing now. It's always true. It's always a surprise. And if you approximate and generalize, think, I know I was going to be sitting in this room looking at you all and seeing all this stuff around. Well, that's true, but it's so vague. Experience doesn't go by vagueness. Experience is actual. Experience is specific. What you experience in a given moment is exactly what you're experiencing in that moment. It's not broad generalities, right? It's the actual fact of what you actually are experiencing. Experience is an actuality. Experience is very specific, very precise. You experience exactly what you experience when you experience it. You don't experience vaguenesses. And if you do experience a vagueness, you experience it precisely a vagueness. You don't experience a vagueness vaguely. Right?
There's nothing I can do to give myself more experience.
Of course not. You can't turn it up, you can't turn it down.
Can't do anything.
Can't start it, can't stop it.
there's actually no learning in the sense that, you know, you actually, in the way that we have learned to learn, it's actually more like unlearning.
Well, you know, anything that we describe as happening happens in the way that it happens, but the actuality is always this. So learning is this. I mean, we obviously learn. There was a time I didn't know how to drive a car. Now I know how to drive a car. I've learned to drive a car. But what that actually consists of is this. And I can't say what it is or how it is because I can't say what this is. How could I learn to drive a car? I don't know.
A lot of people have asked me that.
Well, if you ask my wife, she thinks maybe I haven't, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter, I've been thinking about the, you know, clarity and radiance in terms of, you know, the seeing and the seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there is, you know, there's this ability to see.
Yeah.
And then there is the things that appear.
Yes.
And that mostly we focus on the things we think we're seeing.
Right.
Rather than the seeing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure. But, you know, for the sake of argument or analysis, we can differentiate that, but in actuality they're indifferentiable, because there's never one without the other. So there's not really a one and the other, there's just this. This can be seen in terms of that which is seen. It can be seen in terms of that which is seeing. But you can't ever find that which is seeing separate from that which is seen, because it never appears alone. And you can't find that which is seen apart from that which is seeing, because they never appear alone. It's a myth. So so there are two phrases of this. There are two aspects of this. This is what sees. This is what is seen. And yes, it has this power of seeing itself. Yes, it has the power of showing up as all this. But that's all sophistry, because it's just this. It's not that. It's not all these pieces put together. There's no pieces. It's just what. It's an absolute. It's absolutely integral. It's absolutely itself.
But in a way, that relationship is all that is.
Yes, of course, nothing else.
And that's a very interesting thing too.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. I mean, I call it radiant presence, as you know. The radiance indicates this aspect of all these qualities that show up as experience, and the presence indicates the fact of they show up. They are experiences showing up as this that is here. But even that is just a very sloppy metaphor, because you can't find radiance without presence, and you can't find presence without radiance. Presence is always radiant, radiance is always present. So, again, it's sort of analytically you can look at it in terms of these two poles, but they are essentially and intrinsically different, right? Experience always appears as qualities, even if it's very, very subtle qualities. I mean, you can be knocked out on a general anesthesia or deep asleep, and you can say essentially there's not a whole lot presenting itself, but that's not literally true. It's just very subtle, very nuanced. It's never nothing. And likewise, of course, there's always this presence, there's always actuality, there's always being, which is intrinsically sentient, apparently. But again, you can't separate those, even though we can analytically talk about these different aspects. In actuality, they don't exist separately. So it's like talking about the wetness of water and the flowingness of water as if they were two things. There's only water. There's not wetness and flowingness. You can't have flowingness over here and wetness over here. There's just the water, and then we analyze it in terms of these qualities, which we can talk about as if they were distinct, but they aren't. Right? There's this unending qualities, qualitative. This is unendingly creative as it always shows up as something, right?
In again trying to grasp the more expanded, deeper present state with the inclusion of the mind, which when you're lost in the mind is not a very comfortable state.
Right.
And then the expanded state's wonderful. It's really wonderful. So being present and aware of the mind, or the mind's activity wanting to run your life, directing how things are going to go, do more, whatever, all that stuff. I have a lot of questions about how that, how that can be included and still be present.
Right. Well, intrinsically, it is, because there is always some degree of mind present, whether you're totally absorbed in it and identified with it or less so, and that mind always occurs in actuality within the presence of the field of experience. So both those elements are always present. Now, through distraction, we may be more or less aware of that fact, but because it's always the case, and again, there's no dichotomy, it's easy to play the mind, to create a dualism out of this. Oh, there's mind being lost in the mind, and then there's this vast expansiveness, and like they're two different, like night and day, and they're never going to coexist. But it's not like that, because they are one. This is doing the mind, and the mind exists, if at all, as this. I mean, this is mind. You can't put mind over here and spaciousness or presence over here and have any gulf between them, right? I mean, where does mind happen? Mind happens here. Is mind ever not happening? No. I mean, it may be more or less to the forefront, right? It may be more or less torqued up, or however you want to characterize it, right? But it's always here for some degree, and this here-ness is always more than just that. Right? It's never just mind. And since that's the case, you can develop the ability to notice that it's the case. And again, you may have to sort of play with it or work with it if you're in the habit of not noticing that that's the case. But since it is the case, it is noticeable. Even when you're absorbed in something, you can look at something exists in your experience that's outside of the universe of your obsession. Right? I mean, there's always going to be something over there that has nothing to do with what you're thinking about. And yet it's here, or you wouldn't be experiencing it. And so right away there's expansiveness. And there's not an inside or an outside with the mind's obsession. It's a continuum, right? It has a sort of a whirlwind in the center, maybe, or whatever, right? And then it kind of gradually tapers off in a continuum into less so and less so and less. It's not like there's a wall where the mind stops and the non-mind starts, right? It's kind of a a center and a less so, right? And this is always the case, and I think it's possible to play with that, to practice with it, to toy with it, and develop little tricks of just from time to time noticing that's the case. The nice thing about noticing is it's cumulative. If you notice a little bit once, you'll be able to do it again. And it will tend to build up, it will tend to snowball. It's kind of like retraining yourself.
Yeah, actually I just experienced it while you were talking, and that was pretty interesting. Yeah, it's just when periodically the mind goes off on its own.
Oh yeah, we're nuts, the mind can just woo. Yeah, for sure. But even when that happens, even when this happens really hardcore, it's never total. It's never actually cut off in actuality from other than itself. And again, it's always this kind of continuum. And
Oh, so, and actually, when I think about it, it's actually quite easy to identify because it's not so uncomfortable.
Yeah. And again, experience is never unified. Whenever you're experiencing something, you're also experiencing something else. So even when the mind is churning away like crazy, you can always find somewhere in your experience where it isn't. You actually can, directly. And when you do that, and you're there just as much as you're here. Pain is that physical pain, or actually any kind of pain for that matter, even emotional pain, you can experiment with the same thing. Pain, you can always find places in your experience where there's no pain when you're having pain. It doesn't stop the pain, but you're actually there where there's no pain just as much as you're here where there's pain. And when you really see that, when you really get a sense of that, it can drastically shift your perspective. Because when we have pain, it's easy to sort of, like, you have a little toothache or something, poking at it, and you keep going to it. And so it's that obsessiveness that magnifies it. And you can actually do just the opposite of that. You can notice, well, yeah, this pain is here, but over here, there isn't any pain. And that's in my experience too. I'm there too, just as much as I'm here. So, and the same with sort of mental obsessiveness, when you're lost in a whirlpool of mind and so on. Always within experience, whatever's happening, there's something else happening. And something else in that, and something else in that. Accessibly, literally, concretely within the experiential field. So when you begin to notice this and play with this, you can get yourself out of these kinds of obsessions when they occur. Gradually, you can sort of train yourself to notice this, to begin to notice it. And it just changes the whole feeling tone of being stuck in these things. It doesn't make them necessarily not happen, but instead of just being whole hog caught up in it, just a little more space, a little more room, a little more, well, that's there, but the present experience is a vast field, and it has so many qualities in it. Even when you're having, say you're having there's physical experience, right? There's the sense fields present, right? Your field of vision's present, your field of hearing's present, your field of touch is present, right? You feel the thought is present, or you feel the thoughts are actually sort of textural presence. They're kind of these ghostly little, like the Northern Lights or something, who knows what, right? But there's very, very quiet, subtle little. We don't have words for them, so it's not part of a sensory field, but it's something. Little sparklings or little nuance of mood or flavors or something. And there's more beyond that, and more beyond that, and more beyond that. It's this endless field of subtle qualities. And we can notice that. We can notice how vast we are. And you can notice that you're not stuck. You're not actually contained in your body. You're not actually contained in a situation. You're not actually contained in an obsessiveness or whatever. They may be occurring, but they're occurring as sort of locuses or little whirlpools or vortices within a vastness that is other than that is more than that. Just like the Earth is actually in the solar system. The solar system's actually the galaxy. The galaxy is actually just in the clouds of galaxies right now. So yeah, the Earth is here, it's center, it's in your face, but this is actually the solar system. This is what the solar system feels like from this point of view. This is what the galaxy feels like from here. You're in the galaxy. Right? And it feels different to notice that. It feels different to notice that. Just the feeling tone of where you are. Well, it's just about quitting time. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and wish you a good night. I'll be here the first Tuesday of next month, which I believe is the 5th, if you're interested in joining me.